Hey guys, my name is Aryen and I'm a graduate of Harvard University and Georgetown University. Today, I'm going to be talking all about the SAT. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted life worldwide, including standardized tests. There were more than 735,600 SAT cancellations in fall 2020 alone. The College Board, which administers the SAT, reported that more than 1.5 million students missed the test due to all these test cancellations. With all these changes, more than half of all US colleges have decided to go test optional. Now, some of you might be wondering, what is the SAT? The SAT is a standardized test that measures a student's skills in 3 core areas: reading, writing and language, and mathematics. The full test takes approximately 3 hours and 15 minutes to complete. Now let's say you take the test, but you don't like your score. You don't have to submit your score to universities. The College Board will not release your scores without your permission. In response to the pandemic, some schools have become test optional, while other schools have become test blind. Let me cover the definitions of test optional and test blind. Truly test optional schools allow students to decide whether they would like to submit their test scores or not. For example, Cornell University has not required first-year applicants to submit SAT scores since April 2020, and they've extended their test optional policy for fall 2023 and fall 2024 first-year applicants. On the other hand, test blind schools will not consider any scores, even if you include them in your application. For example, the California Institute of Technology, otherwise known as Caltech for short, has adopted a test blind policy for all first-year applicants to Caltech for fall 2021, fall 2022, and fall 2023. The University of California system, such as schools like UC Berkeley, UCLA, and UC Riverside, has also adopted a test blind policy through at least 2025. Now, considering all of this, many of you might be wondering, is it still worth taking the SAT if it's optional? The answer is yes, absolutely, it is still worth taking the SAT. Even if your dream school has become one of those test optional schools, it still may be in your best interest to take the SAT. Many schools use SAT scores in order to award scholarships to incoming students. Also, it could be the tie-breaking factor if your acceptance status ties with another student. For example, let's say that student decides to submit test scores, but you do not submit test scores. That student might just get the acceptance letter instead of you. In the 2020-2021 application cycle, just under 90% of students admitted to Georgetown University applied with test scores. For Vanderbilt University, 61.1% of admitted students applied with test scores. Now let's imagine 2 students with equal qualifications: strong letters of recommendation, stellar grades, and an amazing extracurricular profile. But one student decides to submit test scores, while the other student decides not to submit any test scores. In reality, the student who decides to submit test scores will likely be admitted over the student who decides not to submit any test scores. Colleges will truly appreciate students who try to make their application more well-rounded. So, submitting SAT scores could be the deciding factor for your acceptance. To sum things up, just because the SAT is optional doesn't mean that you shouldn't take it. The SAT can absolutely carry weight in your applications. If you seek to receive scholarships in order to study in the States, then absolutely take the SAT. I highly recommend that you take the SAT if you want to be a strong, competitive applicant.